Um, why don't we go ahead and get started? Kathleen, hopefully she'll jump in a few minutes. But welcome to everybody to our East Dundee regular board meeting dated May 17th, 2021. Catherine, can you take the roll?
Mahoney. Trustee Andreessen.
Present.
Trustee Kunze.
Here.
Trustee Britton.
Here.
Trustee Saviano.
Here.
And President Lineham.
Here. Okay.
Excuse me, I just wanted to let you know, I just got a text from Kathleen Mahoney, says she's getting an error message, so I'm gonna try to figure out what that is for her. Okay, she's trying to join.
Oh, all right. Well,
Thank
we
you.
can sit tight. Okay. Hey, there she is. Outstanding.
Hi.
All
Apologies.
right.
I was getting an error code, so.
That's usually something certain reserved for me. Okay. All righty. Well, why don't we go ahead and we have our the agenda is a little bit out of order. Normally we have the public comment for agenda items. Why don't we go ahead and do that? Item number 5. Is there anybody from the public who would like to address the board on agenda items only? Okay, seeing none, then we can just go right into, before we begin, I would like to just, I would like to scratch item C in our agenda. That was one that I had asked to put on. So I would just like to go ahead and remove that one. So just let everybody know. So we have item A. If there's anybody can give me a motion to start off.
I will move to give advice and consent to the appointment of the village president of, by the village president of Rich Schreiber to the office of village trustee to fill the seat vacated by Jeffrey Lineham for a term through May 1st, 2023, and until his successor is elected and has qualified.
I'll second.
Second, great.
And just to be clear, I believe you said employed by the village. I believe Trustee Kunze, you meant consent to the appointment by the village president, correct?
Well, I did mean to say that. I apologize if I said employed.
Oh,
So
I
I didn't.
Thank you. Just to be
personal
clear.
experience, we are not very well compensated for our employees.
True enough. True enough. But good catch. Good catch. So can we, Catherine, can you take that role?
Trustee Mahoney.
Yes.
Trustee Andreessen.
Yes.
Trustee Kunze.
Yes.
Trustee Britton.
Yes.
And Trustee Saviano.
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. Our next item then would be the swearing in of village trustee Rich Schreiber. Catherine.
If you would raise your right hand and repeat after me.
Catherine, can you hear?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Gotcha.
Okay. I, Rich Schreiber,
I, Rich Schreiber,
having been appointed to the office of village trustee
appointed to the office of village trustee
in the village of East Dundee
in the village of East Dundee
in Cook and Kane counties,
in Cook and Kane counties
state of Illinois,
in the state of Illinois,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of village trustee
of the office of village trustee
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
All right, well done.
All right.
Welcome aboard,
welcome,
Rich.
welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All righty. Okay, so our next item then is D. Could I have a motion, please?
Well, why would we be doing D if we're not doing C?
Well, I don't really believe that there's a need to vacate or to declare the seat vacant. I'm just going to go ahead and I put this one on here, and it's to go ahead and appoint Frank Scarpelli as village trustee. So I believe the seat's already vacant, so it would be a redundancy to ask for a motion to declare it so.
Our opinion
Wow.
of our attorney is different. I will not make a motion for this item D.
Okay,
I will likewise not make a motion for item.
Yeah, based on the opinion of our attorney, I will also not make that motion.
okay.
I will not make the motion on item D.
And I will also not make a motion based on village council.
Okay,
I'll make the motion on item D to give advice and consent to the appointment by the village president of Frank Scarpelli to the office of village trustee to fill the seat vacated by Scott Andreessen to serve term through May 1st, 2023 until his successor is elected and is qualified.
thank
I will
you.
not-
Can
I will not make a second.
I will also not make a second.
I mean,
Can I get a
nobody's
second?
gonna make a second, so,
I will not make a second.
yeah.
I will not.
Okay. Okay, then that motion does not pass, fine. E then is a moot point at this point, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. Jennifer, you had mentioned that you wanted to discuss, well, we should just go ahead and move on with this consent agenda. Can I get somebody, it's a lot of reading, there's a lot to it.
I'll read it, but was there
Minutes
something
and so
you
forth.
wanted removed? Was there something that you wanted removed from the consent agenda, and then I won't read it to further discussion?
I had nothing. Did anybody want to remove anything or change or add anything to the?
We'll have, okay, then I'll go ahead and read, I'll read in everything.
Good
The
enough.
consent agenda is item A, motion to approve special village board meeting minutes dated April 26, 2021. Item B, motion to approve regular village board meeting minutes, May 3rd, 2021. Item C, it's motion to approve the special village board meeting minutes dated May 10th, 2021. Item D, motion to approve a resolution adding village president and finance director, treasurer as authorized signatories on certain bank accounts of the village of East Dundee, Illinois. Item E is a motion to approve an ordinance extending waivers of certain water and sewer service late fees and shut-off requirements in chapters 51 and 53 of the village of East Dundee Village Code through the duration of the COVID-19 pandemic. Item F, motion to approve an ordinance authorizing a First Amendment to the development agreement by and between the Village of East Dundee and Speedway LLC for the development of part of Lot 5 in Terra Business Park Speedway LLC. Item G, motion to approve an ordinance approving the final plat of Patricia Lane re-subdivision.
I'll second all of that.
All right, Jennifer, can I ask, Frank had sent out an email suggesting that there might be a question concerning the interest on the monies that were going to be shared with Speedway. And I was wondering if you had any comment on that. Was that a situation where we would have to look to perhaps amend what is being charged, if anything, or is this once the deal commences and they open, that's when anything would take part?
I did briefly see the email. I didn't have time to digest it.
Okay.
The terms of the redevelopment agreement were approved Previously, this is more of a very minor housekeeping item, which would define the terms of commencement and also clarify the exact rebate back to Speedway based on the known dollar amount of the EDP grant. That is the only changes to the development agreement in front of you today, not the development agreement approved previously or those terms.
Okay, all right, then we got a little bit more time before then we maybe can look into that. And
No, that the agreement was already approved in 2017, the terms of the redevelopment agreement. Those are
No, I
set,
realize.
and the reimbursement is based on the extraordinary cost to develop the site, including the signalization project. So those terms were set a long time ago. We're not going to be asking the board to revisit the terms of the redevelopment agreement.
No, and okay, but what I'm wondering is, I mean, the question was really in regards to when there might have been an interest. Was there an interest component to the agreement, and if so, when did it commence? And so it's
No, there was not.
okay, great, wonderful. All righty, so then we've got the consent agenda read and second. Catherine, can you take the roll?
Trustee Mahoney,
Yes.
trustee Andreessen,
Yes.
trustee Coonsey,
Yes.
trustee Britton,
Yes.
trustee Saviano,
Yes.
and trustee Triber.
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, then we go to our next item, which is other agenda items. If I could have a motion for item A.
I will move to approve an ordinance approving or denying a special use for motor vehicle, a motor vehicle dealer used only located at 212-214 Dundee Avenue, East Dundee, Illinois, 60118 in the B3 Service Business District.
I'll second.
So this was an item then, maybe Jennifer, you could help give us a little bit of background on it. I think it's the item, or the building on 25 that is, used to be the old florist, in fact, Kettner Flowers, I think it was.
Florist and dentist. It was
It was
documented.
also a dentist office at one time? Okay, great. So they want to open up a used car dealer here. Does anybody have any items or discussion points or thoughts on this?
Yeah, just one point of clarification. I'm sorry, the motion should have been to either approve or deny the attached ordinance. So the approval of the
Correct.
ordinance would approve the special use. The denial of the ordinance would not. And the reason why we're giving you that flexibility here is the Plan Commission recommendation was a 4-3 split. Staff's recommendation, based on some of the content contained within the memo, is to consider a denial or an approval with such conditions as required, as listed within the ordinance. In the past, we have considered car dealerships in the past on that side of Route 20, north of Route 72, but there's also been concerns expressed by village board members. And so that is why there isn't a straight recommendation for approval. So really to leave it up to you on what you think may be a good use for that site.
Yeah, I had a question. I drove by that site because I'm familiar with it, having gone to Dr. Mehta. And the map says 212 and 214 are the front building, and then the other building that kind of looks like a house that's directly behind it. However, on the house that's directly behind it, that's noted as 214 on the map, actually has a 216 address on the side of the building as you pull up to it. So I'm just wondering, is there a discrepancy within the number or within the map itself? I can understand where there might be concern if that's a residence behind there, then having a used car lot that you basically have to drive through every day to get to your house. So I don't know if that can be explained at all by either the petitioners or by anybody else.
Yeah, I can't speak about the address being labeled incorrectly, but the map that's included in your packet is the Kane County GIS map.
Okay.
So these are the parcels. Now, the 214 residential address is part of the dealership. So the petitioner is here, or maybe Brad can chime in. Chris had a family emergency, but they're looking at acquiring the dealership and the house.
Okay.
Brad,
That's
can you
correct.
confirm that? Yeah, so the
Yeah,
house
that is
wouldn't
correct.
be impacted because they're the same owners.
And then just in one of the conditions that was placed on there, one of the conditions that was placed on that was to replace a 5-foot fence with a 6-foot fence. And I don't know if the petitioners are amenable to that or not.
Yes, we definitely are. We've gotten a list of.
Oh, we're having trouble. I'm not hearing you.
I'm sorry, can you guys hear me a little better?
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Yes, we did get a list of requirements from the village that, we need to raise the fence, get the parking lot seal coated and striped, and there's a couple other things that Chris mentioned to me. And,
We're losing you again. I'm sorry. This is not coming through clearly at all.
I'm sorry. Let me just speak up a little bit. Is this better?
Well, a little
I don't want to
bit,
be yelling.
yeah. It's okay, yell.
You might be.
All right, let's do this. So Chris gave me a list of requirements as far as the village has some requirement for the property. He said that we would need to raise the fence, and then we also need to get the parking lot seal coated and striped, so that way we're aware of how many parking spots we would be available. We need to change the light fixtures. I guess the light fixture at the front of the property is not working. So we said we can replace the light fixture itself, or we can replace the light bulbs in there, and we can also put in additional lights, so we can make the property well lit. Our main purpose is we want to attract customers to the property. We want to make sure that when people are driving, and we want to make the property look nice. We want to make it very ambient, you could say,
Okay.
It's our understanding you're agreeable to the conditions that Chris gave
Correct.
you. Okay.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Well, I think what we're talking about is aesthetics, and that's, to be expected, really. I guess what my question of the board would be, what sort of appetite is there to put in another used car dealership? I mean, East Dundee is quickly becoming the town of taverns and used car dealerships. I would, based on the surface of it, I would think we could find a better use for it.
I'm actually, I think that is Frank. Frank, is that you? Or Jennifer or Brad, because you're usually at the meetings. Can you give me any other any other ideas of what the objections would have been, since it was so split in such a close?
I think just based on the use of that area was the main objections.
It
and
seems.
Bring to staff.
Yeah, and I agree with President Lynham that, there are a lot of used car lots. However, there's 2 used car lots just to the north of it and 1 used car lot just to the south of it. So
Absolutely.
frankly, I would rather have a row of used car lots all together in a row than have it being put in to another area where it's sitting out all on its own or in between some other residential areas. So if you look at the map and everything else, you've got the garage, you've got a used car lot, you've got another used car lot, you've got the building in question, and then another used car lot after that. Now, these are all very small lots. So I'm just trying to understand where the objection would have been, either by staff or by other people, so we can have a more informed decision.
Kathleen?
It wasn't, oh, sorry, go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, Frank.
Kathleen, the feelings from the P&Z, unfortunately, you guys may know that the P&Z is not supposed to deal with monetary issues. That's strictly up to the 7 of you. But the question did get asked, will the village get the sales tax revenue? And I stopped that conversation, but the applicant said that their internet sales, so the village may not get it. So that's something you guys got to consider. But I think it was just recommendation by staff to not approve. And then I know me personally, there was a woman who attended the meeting who lives in a house adjacent to the back of the property. And I was just concerned as to why we have a residential use in there. I realize it's a grandfathered use, but they're looking for a special use permit. And I would think now would be the time when you have this on the table to get everything you want. And I just don't know that residential use should continue back there. But that's kind of what happened at our planning and zoning meeting.
Yeah, and I can give you a brief history on the other dealerships there because it's a little bit important, I think.
Sure.
The one to the south was at one point, it was a grocery store, I think, if you remember, that was brought in. And then it quickly changed to a car dealership and some extra like car storage because it was still zoned B4, which is a car dealership, strictly car dealership zoning. So there was nothing the village could do about that. The Benz Works, I think it's called Motor Works now, they came in for a special use because they were strictly a repair, car dealership repair. And they said, well, sometimes the customers come in and they don't want to repair their car because it's too expensive. So he decided he would maybe keep some of the cars, repair them, and then sell them. And he was looking for permission to do like a limited sales of those cars. So at that time, the P&Z and the board said, okay. So then this one is really a little bit different because it doesn't have a repair use and it's not sitting in the B4 straight district. So it's not that staff is recommending not to do it for other reasons, but for those reasons, really, we just wanted the board to make sure they take a close look at it because it is not a B4 zoning. They are not providing any other services. And some board members in the past were starting to worry about how many car dealerships we had in town. And the diversity of the uses being lost. I think you make a good point about putting them all in one location though. And you can see that on 31 in South Elgin, they've done the exact same thing.
Right.
They have 3 car dealerships in a row down 31. So that's why there was a little bit of caution because the other 2 car dealerships were put in for different reasons and different purposes and different circumstances.
Well, I also see that, are you talking about the residential area that's got the numbers 164 and 184? Because that also backs up on, to a used car dealer as well. It's just that 214 that really feels, which is a bunch of our townhouses. So I also drove down there and they basically have the same 5-foot fence on the back side, which would be parallel to 25.
Correct. Yeah, I'm not sure what your question is, but
yeah. You had just mentioned that
they do back up to residential. So actually, the conditions in this ordinance were the same conditions we used for Motorworks.
Got it.
We developed them for Motorworks, so there should be very similar. Basically, just to avoid the over parking of cars, the parking on the grass, those kind of security threats, and then obviously the privacy for the townhomes at that time.
Right.
So not as obviously not the same privacy here because the house is part of the property.
Got it. Okay. I have no other questions. Sorry.
Are you guys planning on using this as a residence?
Yes, we wanted to continue the use.
Can't hear you, Zumar.
So we wanted to keep the the permit
Still no
for
good.
residential estate. Oh, I'm sorry.
We can't hear
Is
you.
this-
You're gonna have to speak
Is this a little
directly
better?
into your mic. We can't hear you.
Okay. No worries. So we wanted to keep the permit for the residential as it is because my dad's planning on retiring, and he wants to retire in that house.
Mhm.
And so someone's gonna be living in that house. My father, he's retiring. He's right here.
Yeah.
He's gonna be retiring, and he wants to settle down in that house.
Yeah.
So that's why we
Jennifer,
mentioned.
how does that work, Jennifer, with the zoning though? I mean, I understand that if somebody lived there for a long time, maybe it'd be grandfathered in, but what is it zoned as right now? Is it zoned as residential just for half of the lot?
I have to look up is the zoning map in the packet? No.
We
Chris,
didn't see it.
or Brad, do you know off the top of your head if that's residential zoning?
The whole lot is zone B3.
Is
Yeah,
the
it's
whole lot
B3.
zone B3? Oh, okay.
B3.
Oh, thank you, Joe. Okay, so that's a legal non-conforming use because it's not a change in use. Got it.
Well, I think one thing that the board should consider is, the residential component of it, notwithstanding, the business model of what's being proposed is different than what we currently have with the rest of the used car dealers and the new car dealers. If this is going to be an internet-based situation, we're going to be giving up commercial potential along 25 and getting nothing in return. So I would caution the board on going along with something like this simply for that reason. Normally, of course, the taxes brought in on car sales is very, very attractive and so forth, and that, is understandable. But if the situation is such that we're not going to be gaining any tax benefit to this, then I would advise against this. Zumar, one more time, man. We're not hearing you.
I'm sorry. So we're actually just marketing online.
Well, we
still can't hear you, sir.
Still no good, buddy.
Maybe he can type into the chat and we can read it, perhaps.
Is this a little better? Can you guys
I think it's just.
Or
maybe-
he could call in to the phone number. That would be a better option. Do you have a phone you can call into the phone number?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you're gonna need to turn off your speaker and your mic on your computer.
You can mute yourself.
Okay, do you need that phone number? Okay, 312 626 6799.
Right.
Okay, it's going to ask you for a meeting ID and just tell me when you're ready.
You gave the thumbs up.
872 5771 2060.
Okay.
Okay, you're also going to need a passcode. Tell me when you're ready. Are you ready? Okay.
And then a fingerprint.
Hi, can you guys hear me now?
We can hear you 4 times.
Okay.
All right. So I was telling Jess that essentially we're going to be marketing online, right? So we're gonna focus our primary marketing to online basis, but all the sales itself, they will be closed at the facility, at the dealership itself. So the transaction that's going to be happening, it's going to happen at the property that's in East Dundee. So the tax will come to the village as well too. And then also on top of that, we're not aiming to sell cars that are on the lower side. We're looking to do high-end luxury cars and eventually getting into Lamborghini, Bentley, Rolls-Royce, and also getting into exotic car rentals. So that is our primary focus. Our focus is to serve high-end luxury cars. So that'll give like a more of a profit margin for us and more taxes for the government as well too, right? And if the business starts picking up, we don't mind getting rid of the residential property that's in the back. That's not really one of our primary focuses. It's there, and my dad wanted to just, because it's already there, he wanted to just move in and kind of settle in over there. But it's not a deal breaker or anything of that sort, right? So his thing is like, if the business is picking up, if business is doing well, then we don't mind reinvesting and getting rid of the residential. Maybe we can put up another building over there. We can extend the parking lot. We can open up another business over there. The opportunities are endless at that point, right? So that's our primary focus. Is we're not looking to just run the dealership over there. We're looking to take full use of the property.
I guess I would just add in that, there's been a couple comments about maybe this isn't the most ideal use of the property. Unfortunately, in this area, it's the only use that's coming to us. Also with the restrictions that are being put in, it looks like we're for sure going to be improving the aesthetic of the property. And to Kathleen's point, it's basically keeping the used car sales kind of in one area.
And the property also.
Ooh. Got an echo.
The property's also been on sale for like the past 7 years, so we want to come in and, just become part of your community. We want to grow with you guys, that is a big thing for us.
Do you have experience in working in used car sales in other areas, or is this a new business model for you?
So we do have experience in the car industry, but for us, this will be our official first dealership. But we do have experience in the industry. My family members are also, my family, like my cousins, they have a dealership in Schaumburg, and then we have another dealership in Naperville. So we are familiar with the regulatories and the rules and laws that we have to follow in order to run a successful dealership.
So, okay. Anybody else would like to weigh in? Thoughts? Okay, so was there any question then with the zoning or the maps or anything that would suggest tabling this one to the next meeting? Okay.
Well, I guess I would like some clarification on the residential aspect of this. I understand it's zone B3. If we put a caveat that they can't be used as residential, would that then prohibit future uses of residential as well?
Well, my guess is that if they wanted to get a different variance, they probably could seek one, right? Or no?
We could put any conditions on the special use permit that you would like to put on. Also, I believe, Joe, if you could confirm if a use is discontinued for a period of 6 months or more, then maybe, we could have it revert back to, the intended use according to zoning. Is that fair to say?
I would ask Attorney Smith that.
It becomes a legal use when you say you can no longer use your house for a house. Sometimes it's a legal question. So Joe, you're very wise. We can just put Greg on the spot for that one.
Sure.
But Greg, we could put conditions, right? We can put whatever conditions we'd like.
Correct. If the village board is inclined to approve the ordinance granting the special use, if certain conditions are met and those conditions relate to the standards for a special use, you can include them. The use of the property is obviously paramount here under your standards. When it comes to the residential use of the property, if it is a legal non-conforming residential use, meaning it was allowed when established, but then the village rezoned the property to no longer allow residential there, your zoning ordinance says that the residential use on its own would be discontinued if abandoned for 180 days. So basically there's a 6-month period currently in your zoning ordinance that if that residential use is not operated, it cannot be reestablished.
And if this has been, is that already done? Has it been vacant for that period of time?
Somebody living there now?
Somebody lives there right now, currently.
Oh.
The current property owner lives there.
I see.
But once we take over the property, then my dad would want to move it. Yeah, so that we have security.
So it would hold. Okay.
Say that one more time.
So it would hold. It would maintain its use as a residence because it won't be vacant for the period of time.
Correct.
Okay.
So is it safe then to assume that if this is a residence and it's being used currently as a residence, but zone B3, there is no issue with regard to occupancy or the permits necessary for that? If Chris were here, I'm sure he could probably weigh in, but I mean, can we assume then that there is no question about occupancy?
That's correct. That's why that aspect isn't really in front of you.
Okay.
That use, just the special use for the dealership. And yeah, Chris really sends his regrets. He had a last minute family emergency. So sorry if we don't have his presence here.
Understandable.
But yeah, I mean, he did look at that already. Otherwise, he would have recommended a zoning process for the house as well.
Okay.
And I'm assuming should the board at some point decide that they would like to use that particular area for other uses, the board could essentially rezone it and then grandfather in the current landowners. Just in order to, if nothing else, give direction to the desired use of that area down the road. Is that correct?
Yes, you can rezone it at any time. It's just if it remains in use, then the uses continue as legal non-conforming.
Okay.
And that's true for any property.
Okay. Well, I guess I need to amend my motion since I didn't specify if it was approve or deny. Seeing as I lost my spot here, I need to go back to the beginning of this thing. So I will amend my motion. I will say, I will now move to approve an ordinance for a special use for a motor vehicle dealer used only located at 212-214 Dundee Avenue, East Dundee, Illinois, 60118 in the B3 Service Business District with the provisions listed in our packet and agreed to by the Zumar family, and with the provision that the property is not used as residential.
Wait, so that would be the house that's currently residential would not be residential?
Correct.
I have no problem with it still being residential.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it being non-conforming use either.
I'm sorry, who made the second to Scott's motion originally? Because they would have to amend that second, correct?
It was,
Trustee
yes, it was
Andreessen.
Trustee Andreessen.
Okay.
So he's not going to do that. Do I need to then
Make a new motion.
So, okay, yeah,
re-amend,
just
or
to
do
be
we
clear, it might be cleaner at this point
To
to
just start
have
over?
the pending motions withdrawn and then make a new main motion so that we don't get into these nesting motions.
Absolutely. So I will withdraw my motion altogether
I'll withdraw my
Both of
second.
them?
and the amended motion as well.
I'll withdraw as necessary.
Does somebody else want to make the motion?
So how do we proceed? What do you
I will,
would like
I'll,
to do?
I'll make a motion to approve an ordinance for a special use of, for a motor vehicle dealer used only located at 212 and 214 Dundee Avenue, East Dundee, Illinois, 60118 in the B3 Service Business District.
Is that
I'll
going to be
second.
with the provisions laid out in the packet as well?
Provisions laid out in the packet, yep.
I'll second.
Okay, Catherine, will you take the roll?
Trustee Mahoney,
Yes.
trustee Andreessen,
Yes.
trustee Coonsey,
Yes.
trustee Britton,
Yes.
trustee Saviano,
Yes.
and trustee Triber.
Yes.
Good luck to you.
All right. Okay, moving on, that leads us to our second item B there. If I could, this is just a discussion, so we really don't need a motion.
We might want to let the Zumar family know that you guys are not obligated to stay on for the rest of the
Oh,
board meeting.
right. If you'd like to drop off,
Good luck to you.
you can stay if you'd like. So it's,
Well,
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. We appreciate you guys a lot. Thank you.
Yep.
Good luck.
welcome to the village. Okay,
All right.
so item
So,
B,
I will move to our, well, I guess we don't need a motion for this. So we're doing discussion.
yeah, you can just read it in though if you want.
do a background.
Just motion. Brad, would you run through the background in your memo, please?
Sure. So the village board had expressed and asked staff to look into ways to have the individuals that come and bicycle using the bike path, they have been parking on River Street for long periods of time. So the board had asked staff to look at ways to direct those bicyclists to park their vehicles not on River and in the caboose lot. So we put together some signage in strategic areas downtown. As you can see in the agenda packet, proposed signage is using our new branding. And it's really to direct motorists from 72 and Barrington to the lot behind the caboose. So as well as we're proposing a couple new signs at the caboose lot on each end that would just replace, there's an existing sign that says 24-hour parking. We're just going to change it to free public parking. I don't know if Amanda or Phil have any additional comments as they've been working on this. But as you can see in the map, we have identified locations where these signs would go with specific arrows to get those individuals to the caboose lot, and mainly trying to get them down Meyer Street and straight to that lot. And we're just looking for consensus from the village board on the look of the signs and the locations we have proposed.
Well, if I could weigh in, I'm okay with the idea that we're following our branding signs and so forth. I hope they don't get lost in the shuffle. Of course, the real proof is going to be in the effectiveness of them. But I can tell you that from my own experience, my own observations, this is a real important thing because somebody's going to get clipped on River Street. I have seen time and again people who are parking on River right in front of the depot and or in any of the merchants on the east side of River that it's almost as if they completely disregard the fact that they're putting themselves into the lot, or I'm sorry, into the lane. Perhaps they just think there's more road than available, but when they're unloading their bicycles, I've seen it where they'll take it right off the rack and then do a 180 and set it in. And I've seen time and again, the cars have to weave around that. And so if we can, whatever we can do to get them to use that municipal lot down by the caboose would be a really good thing. And I'm hoping that people are going to comply because, man, I just hate to see someone end up getting hurt just because they're not focused on oncoming traffic. So.
Okay.
I think the signs are a good idea, but I would also add that I would like to see it the information made part of maybe some of our marketing and informational materials, stuff like that, social media and what have you, saying, hey, listen, bike, we've got bike parking, what have you. I mean, anything we could do to take a little of the stress and pressure off of River Street would be a good
Be
idea.
aware,
I
right?
do think putting it on the website would be a good idea, yeah. I think we should also advertise it on the bike trail for when people are riding their bikes, that they know that they can come to that lot in particular and park there and ride for the rest of the day. For sure. I also feel like I had Jennifer email you guys a couple ideas of some things for the bike trail. One, if anybody rides down towards Algonquin, if you get near Route 31 on the bike trail, they have one of these repair stations, which is just a small thing that people can fix a flat, pump up there. It's got a air pump right built into it that can't be stolen. There's some little tools that come with it and stuff like that. The picture that I put with this has the name of the company that makes them. They don't list prices on their website. It says call for a quote. So I don't know if you guys can maybe chase after that a little bit and see what they would cost at least. I think it'd be pretty welcoming to bicyclists in the area. The other thing is, these signs for our businesses. I had the idea that if the village were to provide a post, we could then advertise to our businesses that they can purchase a sign that can go on the post. Now, the idea of the businesses might come and go. Well, if a business leaves, you could take their sign down, and if a new one comes, they can decide if they want to put a sign up or not. Just a thought, it could go like right at not by that path, but maybe by the intersections of the roads, to just direct and advertise for our businesses, so people know coming through town what is there. Because when you're running through town, sometimes it's hard to stop and look around. I realize that these are not related maybe to these parking lot signs, but just something I wanted to bring up for food for thought, so to speak, for future considerations, to make ourselves a more walkable and bikeable community.
I agree with Scott. I mean, I think to the extent that we can make our depot park like almost like a bicyclist oasis, maybe have a repair station, have information, anything we can do to get people off their bikes, and maybe even just taking a break at the depot will get them looking around our downtown area and give them opportunities to essentially showcase our village to them.
Yeah, I love the idea of having a bike stand and air station as well. And being close to or adjacent to the depot, where it's in the, it's in the shade. If somebody needs to work as well on something, they can do that.
Yeah, from my part, I would be interested to know what sort of costs is involved. Scott, you'd indicated that the website for that company didn't offer anything that way, but just the actual application or installation, if there's a pump or any electricity that would need to be part of it, I don't know. I mean, if it's a manual pump, obviously we don't have to worry about that, but
it is a manual pump.
It is, okay.
The other thing I was thinking, is I actually noticed we do have a trail map, but it's at the corner of Route 72 and River Street on the south side of Route 72. There's a trail map there, which is not a place where people stop on their bikes because it's right by Route 72. I don't know if that's within our authority to move that thing, but it would be better, I think, served downtown where people are congregating and stuff like that. Just another thought.
Perhaps that's a county site then, or I'm sorry, a sign.
I think that it belongs to the forest preserve likely. So we might have to talk to them about if they're willing to do that, but just another thought.
Okay, yeah. Yeah,
We can
we might obviously.
certainly look into those two items, the trail map and the bike pump. And that was kind of the thought process at one point, to put one of those bike repair kits, would you call it?
Yeah.
So that thought has been around for a while, so we certainly can do that. It's within spending authority. I'm sure the cost will be minimal. And then I did respond to Trustee Coonsey that maybe the other signage could be part of the downtown and the entryway signage that we were discussing in the general village committee. We do have to have these committees re-established, President Lineham, because, for example, we were on one.
Yes.
But we have $50,000 budgeted, so I would imagine that we could kind of look at that comprehensively. If you know, once that committee is established, because we were working on some ideas for the entryway signage, and we can keep pushing that to get that done. So maybe that would be a good process for the bike path signage, and then take care of the other ones, you know, right away, and let you know whether we can move the trail map or not.
Parking is separate. Parking would be separate from the other. Getting back to parking and the subject at hand. I think the locations make a ton of sense. I think there was a copy and paste going on the first page of the street view locations, the second photograph being River and Hill Street going south instead of north. But I'm wondering, you've got two signs right at each entrance to the parking lot itself. I'm wondering if we could potentially, if there's a reason for it to be two different signs, or if we could combine the two on the right in some ways, so that it would just be one longer sign. So you could have your parking East Dundee circle logo at the top, similar to the ones on the left. And then instead of East Dundee, down at your bottom panel, just put in free public parking or municipal lot below that or above it.
Yes, we can look to simplify that and make it one sign.
Great.
I mean, we all know what we're talking about here, but is it going to be obvious to people if we put a P and a bike that that's where we want people to park? And
I was going to ask the exact same question. To me, this looks like parking for bicycles, not parking to drop your car and take your bike.
I mean, I don't know how you could clarify that, but
you know,
I need a park and ride.
Park and ride, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good observation. We can look at we've looked at a few different ways, but we thought this one identified it the best. But you know, a lot of it's going to be based on how we advertise it on the website, Facebook, and all our social media, and what we push out on that. So if we get the sign out there with the clarification on what it's meant for, I think that will help people understand.
You could also maybe put a sign at the lot that says, you know, we at East Dundee welcome you, and we would just prefer that you park at this lot if you are bringing your bike to launch from here. Something that kind of spells it out a little bit, that, you know, there's some thought behind this of what we want people to do, so that everybody knows.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. We can look at that too, on how to clarify it right at that lot.
Yeah.
Agreed that the messaging will help, I think.
Yeah. I can't imagine there'd be a whole lot of objection to complying with it, because where we're suggesting they park is right there at the path. So honestly, it's even closer to the path than River Street is. So I would hope that people would cooperate and do what's necessary.
Well,
I think if they know and understand the signage,
exactly. I don't think it's an objectionable idea. I think it's just people will know.
Yeah.
Is this something that would go before like the events and marketing committee or the general committee, you know, just to kind of hash out and, you know, take the feedback from the other trustees and then bring back something to the board? Or is this something that we would do almost on a committee of the whole basis?
Well, my thought is that this has already been established or they've already got quite a bit of it done. Just to let people know that I will be, going through the committee assignment process for us all to get a little bit more clarity on that. So I'll be doing that. Jennifer, I'll meet with you and we'll talk a little bit about that. But yeah, the signage, isn't that on general committee, on general village?
General Village.
It is, but we're really talking about the large signs. These are kind of, I mean, this is like less than $1,000. It's just replacing the P signs with something else. We can take it for more discussion if we need to, but we will then, it will be later in the season. So,
Right.
I mean, it depends how much you really want to talk about it, and how significant it is.
I think the messaging is the most important thing. I mean, the signs will direct people once they're in town, but if we're getting the word out, it's going to be a big help for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Agreed. Might end up having to be with social media too, just kind of an ongoing thing, a reminder kind of deal, but that's not real complicated, so hopefully the message will get out there. I think the people who come down and ride their bikes and park there are repeat visitors, if you will. So hopefully it'll have a good effect.
Yeah. Okay.
Great. So is there any other discussion with this then? Anybody? Oh, okay. Then,
Can I recap the consensus? Because I like to leave with a clear direction. Okay. So on the signage itself, we're going to make sure we clarify it a little bit more at the lot. We're going to try to combine it all into one sign at the lot. And then we are going to also separately do one of the bike repair kits at the depot and also see if we can relocate the trail map. Is there a consensus for that action?
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you.
Good. Well, our next item up for bid is item C. And this looks like it's more of a discussion point too, but maybe somebody would like to just read it in and bring it up.
Go ahead, Brad.
Yes, so as you know, our event season is kicking off. We had put out applications as we do each year for our local businesses to participate as a vendor, both for alcohol and food. The agenda item that you have before you is a recommendation from staff based on the applications we received on how we would divvy up the alcohol vendors for each of our events. It's listed within the agenda item there, as well as our food vendors. We're more concerned about the board's direction, opinions on the alcohol vendor side of things. As you know, we always get more businesses and events that we have for this, and obviously the alcohol portion is the most popular one for everybody to want. We try to do our best to divvy that up in a fair process, looking at past years and who's had what. So our recommendation here is based on the last few years and how we had spread out the alcohol vendor. And so we're just looking for direction from the board on if you agree with our recommended selection here, or if you want to make any changes. I just want to note our Thursday, first one is a week from this coming Thursday. So, and I mean, the short turnaround, we had to select the vendors for that to make sure that we were prepared for the event. We did reach out to Black and Gray and Alianos for the alcohol portion, and they are still interested and will participate at that event, as well as Rosie O'Hara's for food. And I believe DC Cobb's that hopefully will join in as well. But we're just looking for your thoughts on this.
Is DC Cobb's approved yet for their kitchen?
I'll defer that to Jennifer, but I think so.
Yes, they are. As of Friday, I believe.
Great. I'm hungry.
They should do
We're very
real well.
excited.
Yeah, that's going to be a great place. A real good addition to the village for us. Hey, Brad, could you just for maybe Rich's benefit and anybody else who might not know, just kind of give us a quick rundown on the selection process with the vendors? I mean, they're always the in-town vendors. Is there ever an instance where we would entertain a vendor who was not in the village, or have we experienced, excuse me, apprehension on any of the vendors' parts or any of the merchants to get involved and left without a vendor, that kind of thing?
Not really. I mean, we put out the applications, we send them directly to our local businesses that have participated in the past. It is out there. We have not received any applications that I'm aware of in the past from outside of East Dundee vendors.
Okay.
And they're mainly, the vendors that we do get are centralized in our downtown area. As you can see, the list that we got are really the same vendors that apply each year and are interested. We do, try to reach out to a few more, but we just don't get the interest.
Yeah.
I guess what would be your question then?
Well, I just
that?
wanted to kind of give a rundown on, I mean, the fact that we focus on the downtown vendors or the downtown merchants and so forth as being vendors. It only makes sense, of course, but I was just curious if there was ever an instance where we might have someone who is outside the village or further away from the downtown as sponsoring either food and or alcohol for one of our events.
We did have that Mexican restaurant off of 25 there. Is it La Mascara? We've had them in the past, but that's probably the farthest vendor, within town that we've had. It's terms of apprehension of, trying to fill these spots, and whether people are upset or not, we do our best. I think we come to agreement that it satisfies everyone. Obviously, they do have a chance to participate as a food vendor, and that opportunity is even greater, as we're always looking for food vendors at our events for each one. But we try to do our best. Obviously, not everybody's going to be happy with the selection, as there's only a limited amount of events that we have, and they all want to be the alcohol vendor, especially the Oktoberfest being the bigger one. As you can see, we are recommending DC Cobb's as the Oktoberfest vendor, and we've tried to, last year we had a black and gray. So we tried to kind of highlight our new business with that, as well as keeping kind of the order going amongst those that are interested. So.
Yeah, and if I could also add, in anticipation of the 2020 season that was canceled, before that, we had a focus group of businesses, because over a period of time, there's been some sort of breakdowns or no shows, or the business's feelings are hurt or the village's feelings are hurt. We had a really wonderful 2-hour heart-to-heart focus group with the businesses. And everybody said, we're going to recommit ourselves. Don't go outside East Dundee. We had the opportunity to talk to them about the reason for having the events is for our businesses, and we don't want to go outside of East Dundee. And so even though that was the past, that really was the last time we had a big, lengthy conversation with the businesses. And they really were re-energized, I think. And it would always be our recommendation to keep it local, extremely local, as in East Dundee. We've made exceptions for like the VFW and other nonprofits that serve East Dundee at Oktoberfest. But that's the only exception that we've made. So I think that the businesses and the village are on the same page here. It's just who gets Oktoberfest because they make the most money is always the issue. Yeah. So last time we gave it to Black and Gray because they were the new business. So here we're talking DC Cobb's, they're the new business. It's kind of like a grand opening for them. But we're certainly open to any way that you want to divvy it up. We're very impartial here. We just are trying to come up with something that will hopefully be rolled out as smoothly without too many complaints.
I do want to make a point. I do want to make a point as well that typically in the past, we just from a process standpoint, we have taken this to the events committee and with a recommendation, and it's really discussed at that level and decided then, and then we move forward. Obviously, this year with the committees not known yet, we are taking it to the full boards, which is why we're here today.
I just have one question about Oktoberfest. You only have alcohol vendors listed. Are there going to be more food vendors in 2019? There were quite a few different food vendors. Is the intent to just identify who is doing the alcohol first and then opening it up to a broader assortment of food and sweets and all that kind of stuff?
Correct. Typically the alcohol is a contentious decision for the village. We'll send out applications specifically for Oktoberfest towards the end of summer, July, early August, to get the food vendors, but we look to get as many food vendors as we can at that event. Typically, I think 5 to 10, hopefully, we're looking for.
Well, it's an awful lot of work, and of course, my hat is off to everybody who gets involved. And I would encourage anybody from the village to come on out and help us out. Our first one is going to be a week from Thursday. That's going to be great. Hey, Brad or Jennifer, can I ask really quickly, if we've done this now for a couple of years, and obviously tweaking it as we go and improving as we go is the main thing. Is there any I don't know, complaint or concern amongst any of the vendors that either puts them off from wanting to get involved, or just seems to recur as far as issues?
Not that I'm aware of. I think we do our best to get them to participate and try to encourage that, which is we're constantly going to them, trying to push them to the events, as we want the event to be successful as well. So that is our job.
I would say there's a couple of reasons that some of the vendors, the proximity, they don't really need to be out on the street because they're in close proximity to the event. And then also the food vending sometimes costs you money. And so you have to look at it from, this is my way to advertise my business rather than this is the way to make the money. So if a business is strictly looking to make money, that by the time they pay staff, maybe they don't have staff. Some of our businesses, it's like they're running the business by themselves. So those are the two primary reasons why they wouldn't participate. But even the businesses that don't participate, if they're close enough, they always benefit. They're benefiting from it just by proximity. So they don't need to. Like Diamond Jim's is a good example of someone who may not need to participate, or Calendo's. So that's one explanation we've heard over time.
I think staff would like to see the businesses participate more at these events, and take advantage of our events by trying to attract, who we bring down for these events to come back to town at a later date to patron their businesses. So we're always encouraging the businesses to come down and kind of advertise themselves to draw people back to East Dundee, and we'll continue to do that this year.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to do that. If people can't get into the normal establishment, it gives people an opportunity to find out what a Diamond Jim's is all about, or what DC Cobb's is all about, that kind of thing. So
my only question would be, for Oktoberfest, are 2 vendors enough? Do we want to, would it make sense? I think Black and Gray actually did a whole special brew, for Oktoberfest, and being a kind of a beer drinking festive occasion, to not have our local microbrew or nanobrew participating, and they're only involved in, I believe, one other. I only see them in one other event, where a lot of other people, especially in East Side Cafe, is in quite a few events as well. But
just to clarify, Black and Gray, hold on.
And I think if I were,
I just wanted to clarify with Black and Gray as well. I believe they're going to provide the beer for Wine Down Wednesday through the Anvil Club, so they will have that opportunity.
Oh, they will. Okay.
Yeah, that's our understanding. Yep.
That's what I was going to say. They've kind of made arrangements amongst themselves, which is really cool to be a provider for somebody else. But I would keep the Oktoberfest to 2 vendors because the weather is still so questionable. The attendance is still so questionable as we build this. And there has been like some disappointment in the past on like the wine side. So I hate to add like another layer there. And I've also really tried to discourage, and I'd like to even discourage this more, some of the like other types of mixers, because the way they're mixed out there hasn't really been, it's kind of like a more uncontrolled bar scene. So I don't know what else we may provide. We can certainly look at it when we get closer to Oktoberfest, but just keep in mind the 2 businesses that are participating really would like to make some money. So adding more vendors sometimes is actually, the vendors that are chosen aren't happy about that.
Okay.
I like the vendor breakdown that you put in, I think, and looking at past years, there's nothing actually that I would change about it, from my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think it looks really good so far. So I'm excited about this year coming up. Hopefully, now that things are going to be, lightening up a bit with the pandemic and everything, and hopefully we'll have a really good season. So, does anybody have any other comments they'd like to weigh in concerning the events?
No, good job, you guys.
Yeah, looks good.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Can we do this in a motion? I'm sorry, I wish it was listed as a motion, just so that we know that everyone's on board.
I'll make a motion to proceed with the beer and wine vendors for Wine Down Wednesday, Thursday, Thursdays, and Oktoberfest as noted in the memo.
Second.
Hey, Catherine.
Trustee Mahoney,
Yes.
trustee Andreessen,
Yes.
trustee Coonsey,
Yes.
trustee Britton,
Yes.
trustee Saviano,
Yes.
and trustee Triber.
Yes.
Well, okay. Well, then that brings us to the last agenda item, just being a discussion, planning and zoning commission. So Jennifer, would you like to kind of open this one up for us and let us know what this entails?
Yes, this was at the request of trustee Andreessen, along with some other trustees you had spoken to. So maybe you want to lead this discussion, trustee Andreessen?
Sure. So I just wanted to see if there is a general consensus amongst the board about discussing the possibility of, or at least examining whether or not the Planning and Zoning Commission is something that should be continued, or if it's just another layer of bureaucracy that, its benefits don't outweigh. Namely that, when somebody wants to do a project in town, it's going before P&Z, then it's coming back before the board. The board, for the most part, does an independent review as well. And I'm wondering aloud if we might not expedite things and make things a little more streamlined by having some of the functions of the P&Z, handled at the board level, either as a committee of the whole, or even partially as like subcommittees, for example, like a historical subcommittee, what have you, and just really kind of make it a little bit easier to do business with the village.
Well, I guess my question would be, is there anything in our village code or charter that demands that we have this planning and zoning commission?
My understanding, and then I'll kick it over to Jennifer and Greg, is that the P&Z was committed by, or was created by board action. So I'm assuming that assuming that the obligations of the P&Z could be properly accommodated, at the board level, the board could probably likewise dissolve the P&Z.
Greg?
We are home rule, so we can do some changes, but Greg, can you explain the process required?
Sure. Yes, thank you. So the village, if the village is going to have zoning and zoning relief, it needs to have a body to hold public hearings pursuant to notice mailed and or published in the newspaper before it makes those zoning decisions. The Illinois Constitution requires that. So the village within that, broad parameter has discretion to decide who holds the hearings and how the hearing findings are brought forward to you for final determination. State law does not impose specific limitations on the village. As Jennifer mentioned, as a home rule unit, you're free to design a zoning process that is more flexible, let's say, than in a non-home rule community. So you still have to hold public hearings, let people have the chance to do cross-examination. You still have to give those mailed and published notices, but otherwise you could be creative if you wanted to be more nimble for these kinds of hearings. That is certainly possible. Any decisions in this regard would have to be very carefully vetted to ensure that you're meeting your constitutional requirements for due process of people both asking for zoning relief and then the potentially affected neighbors who have a constitutional right to participate in that process.
So essentially, there could be carved out, part of why I'm intrigued by this idea is because currently our Planning and Zoning Commission only meets once a month. And so as new projects are brought forth, they have to wait. Petitioners would have to wait, another 3 weeks where it's 3 to 4 weeks where it's a little bit quicker if we were to do it, at a board level. And then potentially what I'm hearing you say, Greg, is that, a certain part of the agenda items could be carved out to basically have the same operations that would occur in the planning and zoning, are currently held in the planning and zoning, and the steps that are required with the public meetings and notices and all that good stuff.
Yes, it's possible to get some of that flexibility put in place. Also keep in mind that if the village board were to conduct its own zoning hearings and then it intended to take action on those items the same evening, that doesn't allow for time for an applicant to go back and revise plans right after a recommendation is made, or because there are times in zoning where having a little bit of time may be useful to allow for further development of concepts or plans to be blended into the final product. It may be difficult for the board to hold a hearing and approve something the same night in some instances. But I can tell you, for instance, I'm aware of municipalities that municipalities may have a zoning hearing officer for certain kind of zoning applications. There's someone who holds the hearing as an individual as opposed to the larger group, which may allow things to move more quickly, or has certain kinds of variations or other types of approval that are done more administratively than by the village board. So if the board is looking for flexibility, I can certainly work with staff on putting together options and examples of other communities in this regard.
I at the very least think it's worth taking a look at. Like I said, I mean, to Trustee Smith's point, I mean, they meet once a month. I mean, there's nothing to say that, board couldn't
Scott, you
have,
froze up.
oh, God bless the internet service. That the board couldn't, again, meet more frequently and again, have the flexibility to streamline the process a little bit. I think it's at least worth looking into what would be involved and, what the pros and cons of doing that would be.
I would think that for my part, the idea of streamlining any process is a good one. However, I don't think that eliminating the P&Z would be a good idea. I think they provide a really useful service in that it gives us an idea of the feel for any of the items that come before the planning and zoning that we are going to be faced with. So it's a new set of eyes. It's a different set of eyes that's going to examine this and give us their take. If there's ways that we can either streamline this or improve communication, education, knowledge, whatever, that would be certainly worth doing. But I really would caution the board. I would urge us to remain with the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Planning and Zoning Commission. As I say, I think it provides a very useful service, and it gives the village then as well, and the residents, a sense that everything is not focused or centralized within the board itself. On top of which, if the board were to take over the role of the Planning and Zoning Commission, I tend to think we would be overloaded. And so, again, the idea that we're allowing for at least the sense of some impartial view or a check and balance type of approach to this, I think is a good idea. If we're going to be judge and jury on it all, well, there may be some objection to it. So I would think that the idea of retaining it would be an important role.
I would argue that the board already is judge and jury because we're not necessarily bound by the recommendations of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Well, true enough, somebody has to be able to make the decision, and that's the board. But that doesn't mean that we don't get some benefit from the service that the P&Z provides. I mean, it's really, I think, a good thing that we have a board of 9 other people. If we wanted to streamline that, that would be a discussion, or to narrow it down, if you will. But I still think that the idea of having an independent body reviewing some of these issues that are coming before the board is a good one. We anytime you're going to get more opinion on or perspective on an issue, I think the better. And so,
again,
is there a way, if things getting clogged up with as far as petitioners and so forth? Well, yeah, that happens, but I don't think that I haven't heard anything come before us that is really a great concern as to the effectiveness or even purpose of the planning and zoning. So I'm
not asking that it be dissolved immediately. What I'm asking for is to take a closer look and whether it would be worthwhile to, dissolve it, or maybe bring the historical portion onto the board, or reduce the number of P&Z seats. I mean, just essentially, I'm looking at what the options might be for streamlining. I'm not saying that it would have to be a dissolution or anything like that. I just want to try to make things a little bit easy, more streamlined.
Yeah. Well, I think they did that some years ago. If I recall, there were 2 separate boards of 7 members. One was a zoning, and then the other one was a historical district, if you will, or historic commission. And they decided to merge those 2 separate meetings and quorums and communication challenges brought forth the idea of combining those 2 different boards to the current planning and zoning as we see it now. So there was, at that time, what you're suggesting, Scott, that there was some streamlining done with that. If we've got, suggestions or ideas or whatever that would further streamline.
I think that Greg is offering to show us some other possible avenues to address this. And I don't know if that's going to incur a cost to us for his services of doing that. But if he's got other examples, I'd always love to hear about the way other places do these kind of things, because we can take bits and pieces of things just to make our components better as well, I think. So I would say we should take Greg up on the offer to give us an idea of how other municipalities handle this kind of thing.
I'd like to see that as well.
Agreed.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, we should always, and really, I would just encourage too that to keep this sort of idea in the forefront with any of the operations within the village. I mean, as we go along, things change and the environments change and so forth. And so anytime that anybody's got some ideas on improvement in any aspect of the village, this as well, I don't hesitate, bring them before us. And so, yeah, if we've got a consensus then to get some more information on how other towns are doing this and utilizing this particular service, that would be wonderful.
I'll provide a brief memorandum to the village board on that matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
Okay, great. Okay, well, let's continue on then. Next one is the financial reports. You have your warrants list in the packet. So if any, you review those, any questions that, you might have, you can run them before Jennifer. I'm certainly willing to help out with that. So we'll start with reports. I'll just start out the report process here. There's one issue that's been coming up with regard to the depot. I have been in contact with the committee, the township committee that runs it, And late last summer, we decided to pick up an expense with regard to Bill Zelsdorf's running the operation when we first brought it back in and decided to open up the depot itself for, I think it was $200 a week for the 5 days from Wednesday to Sunday. He would be there and open it and run the operation, keep it going 4 hours a day. And there has been communication now that because they are going to be there now with the open season on Saturday and Sunday, the suggestion has been made to, instead of paying for Wednesday to Sunday, let's just pay Monday to Friday, because the Saturday and Sunday is already going to be covered. So I would like to sit down. Jennifer, I'll contact you with on that. But I would like to encourage the board to consider keeping the depot open and with this same situation that we have been going with since the fall. But now what this will do is change our coverage, that instead of Wednesday to Sunday being open, we'll be open all day, or I'm sorry, every day of the week. So, and then the other idea is that, perhaps we can figure out a way. I'm going to be meeting with the supervisor, the new supervisor of the Dundee Township, and figuring out ways that we can refine this a little bit. Just to kind of give you a little background, the village owns the building, the township runs it. And so it's been kind of a partnership, and it's run fairly well so far, with, the pandemic notwithstanding. And so I would encourage that, we continue to do this. And so.
Are you meeting with Aaron O'Leary, or
No,
Aaron Thrower?
Aaron Thrower, yeah.
Aaron Thrower has nothing to do, and that township board has nothing to do with this. This board that has been running this is the Township Visitor Center Board, which is
right.
Steph Pickett, Bill Zelsdorf, Connie Kashub, Kim Bond, Paul Lauer,
right.
A lot in it. So they
Right.
are not in any way connected.
Well, it indicates that it's Dundee Township, community center. And so if there is any sort of connection, this is one thing that I'd like to discuss with them.
It's the visitor center, and it was meant to take advantage back in the day before we had phones and QR codes and maps with it, we carried with us all the time, for people that came to the village to be able to see what the businesses are, and for people that were on the bike path to come in. So it has nothing to do with the township as a greater whole. And I've been talking with several of the trustees about, about whether or not I agree that it's important to keep this open, and I would actually like it to be open longer than 4 hours a day. I'd like it to be open during daylight hours.
Yeah, me too.
When the path is open. And, right now, if that's what they're willing to do, and that's what we've got, and we're in mid-season, we're already in mid-season, but next season, should we be looking at a broader group for either a bicycle, a biking group, or another type of a charitable group that wants to come in, needs a place to have, and just get requests for proposals of what to do with that building from other businesses or other groups that would end up staffing it, so that as a visitor center, and that type of thing. So I don't have, to your point, I don't have any problem. I'd like it to be open longer than just 4 hours a day.
Agreed.
And if it means, having more than somebody besides Bill staffing it. Originally, Bill was paid that just to staff it part-time himself, as well as manage volunteers and make sure that the slots were filled. So I would actually like to see it go back to that, where it's the $200 a week, and then Bill can figure out, have the longer hours, and he can also staff and manage the volunteers.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like I say, it was really kind of I don't know, not a knee-jerk reaction. That's not the right word for it. But since we had so much interest in getting it back open last fall when I was painting the building, if I had $1 for every time I had someone ask me if the building was going to be open or when, boy, I tell you, I'd be a wealthy man. But yeah, with the Friends of the Depot, the volunteer thing is wonderful, and if we can encourage that and build on it, that would be wonderful. My only thought about talking with Erin Thrower would be just to see if she had any ideas that maybe we could work on together to try and bring some of that about. I agree with you. I'd like to see it open longer than it currently is. 4 hours a day is not a whole lot, but short of bringing on a head count or whatever to man that, there's some ideas and some concerns that we'd have to discuss. So that's really my only thought, that I would like to get that conversation going, really, so we can expand our involvement with it, because it's a great asset to the village. It really is. And so I don't know that there's really any other town up and down the bike path that has anything like it. And so I'd really like to exploit it.
Well, the trustee Mahoney's point, I think there would be some value in, rather than slapping continuous Band-Aids on this thing, sitting down and figuring out a meaningful, logical way of, getting what we need while maybe working with an organization within a community, where they could, where it would become a true visitor center. And, again, we have to do what we have to do this year just to keep things going. But I think a serious look, and again, whether it's an RFP or whatever we do, I think a serious look at addressing this issue differently after this year makes sense.
Okay.
Yes,
To
and
that point,
we've been in communication with the visitor center. So about, I don't know how many months ago, 6 months ago, we did meet with Stephen Pickett, and he told us that there were funds available for this year, that it would be tight. They wanted to see how the depot market was going to go, but that he thought they could float along. Then we got notice that they were going to eliminate his hours altogether, and it was immediate, which is different than the conversation we had 6 months ago. So I think what I've asked them to do is to present the request to the board, because I was getting emails, will you keep paying every week? And I think this is a larger discussion, one, because maybe their budget is ramped up, but so is ours, and we need to understand, what their request is and what we're getting for that request, and then what their actual need is. And if it's this year and a new program next year, that's fine. But I think we need to hear from them and then put it on the agenda, so we actually know what their need and what their request is. So I did speak to Lucy DeLapp last week, and she was planning on doing that for us. So it should come before you in the near future. We did direct the police department in the meantime to open and close the bathrooms. So the bathroom issue is at least addressed the way we've addressed it in the past.
Okay.
So, but the depot right now is not staffed. They made that change immediately. So just so you know.
Okay, well, I spoke to Bill today, and I assured him that I'd bring up this issue to the board, and felt confident that we would want, at a minimum, to keep the building open, at least to the extent that it has been over the last 6-8 months, since late last fall, or actually I should say early last fall. So I would hope that we would at least do that much. If we want to expand on it, that would be great. I would love to see that. He's planning on opening it tomorrow, as he has in the past. So if that's not something that we want him to do, then I need to know that now, so I can contact him and tell him differently.
well, I think that whatever we're talking about right now is for next year. I think this year we're going forth as everything's been planned. Is that not true, guys? Or?
Great. If that is the case, what I'm
It's not a budgeted item. This is an expense that the visitor center has absorbed They paid him through volunteers and through the depot market. So we were covering it during the pandemic, but it's not fair to say we should continue what we're doing because it's not a budgeted item. So we can, per your direction, but I do need that direction because Bill is not our staff. This is a separate foundation. And our share of the IGA that we have in place has always been to maintain the building and pay for all the repairs and everything else, not to pay the staff. This was their portion of the agreement.
Who's the IGA with?
Who is exactly? Who is the
Dundee
IGA
Township
with?
Visitor Center, which is not the Dundee Township. It is the group that organizes the depot market. And, you know, if you go back and you read the plaque.
Doesn't an intergovernmental agreement imply that they're a government though? They're not a taxing body, are they?
Correct. It's an agreement with a nonprofit.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, it's an agreement with a nonprofit that's in place. So, but this was definitely their portion, and we've kind of like absorbed their losses over time. So whether we can continue for next week or a month or 2 months or 6 months is fine. But I just want to make you understand this was not past practice. This was a change due to the pandemic only.
Okay. Well, in that case, I think that, you know, if they're out of money and asking for more, then yeah, they should be before us and proposing what we should be giving them and why and what we're buying with that money, I think. And you know, if we want to say, you know, for the next, we've already have, I would imagine, markets planned and advertised for the upcoming weeks. I mean, I think we should give them a month of leeway, but beyond that, I think that they need to be coming to us and as a board and explaining what they want and what they need and, you know, and what they're proposing, I would imagine.
Yeah, they should.
I agree, Scott. I think it at a minimum, we should have that much. Of course, too, though, I would just add that the board, you know, we need to ask ourselves, we have this beautiful little building in the downtown, and do we want it as part of the downtown? Do we want it open? It's not like we can just pick the building up and move it somewhere. So, you know, the question remains, what are we going to do with it? Do we want it to remain open? At the amount that we're currently, you know, assisting with, $200 a week, for the 4 hours a day we're getting it, I think we're getting a pretty good deal. The only thing that is being brought to me that I'm now bringing to you, that's going to differ from what we have been experiencing over the last 6-8 months now, is the time. We're paying for Wednesday through Sunday, that $200 a week. The suggestion is just make it Monday through Friday, because they'll be there on the weekend anyway. And so this really just kind of gives us, for the same input or the same contribution that we've been making, it gives us 2 extra days of access to the building.
Well, is that what they're saying though? Are they saying they want to do it 7 days a week for the same price now? I can't imagine they're saying that.
They're not asking for any more money. What they're asking for is they're just saying that what we have been, like I say, contributing has been for Wednesday through Sunday at an amount of $200 a week. They're proposing that we just make that Monday through Friday, and that on Saturday and Sunday through the depot market, since the season's open, and that the weekends they'll be there anyway. And so this allows us to have access to the building, and the public to have access to the building 7 days a week. Now, to Kathleen's point, if we could still work on a way to figure out how to expand that number of hours, that's really the discussion that I think still needs to happen.
And it sounds like they have something that they'll be bringing before the board. I mean, if they're having this, we should expect to hear that from them, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm hoping the same thing. Yeah,
But I
agree.
think we need to have our longer term discussions sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's implemented at the end of this year or in the fall or January 1, whatever it is. You know, I don't think there's any point in delaying, you know, the board actually rolling up its sleeves a little bit and figuring out how we're going to resolve this issue or deal with this issue long term.
No, I think the sooner we get to it, the better. I agree.
I'm good with the 1 month thing, covering it for a month. And I think that if they are offering to do the weekends because they're there anyway and moving it to Monday through Friday, it shows an effort to give back also for covering it for a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It was like, okay, hey, if you want to open Monday and Tuesday as well on top of what you've been doing, that's great, you know.
I do want to clarify though, if this isn't budgeted right now, has it been continuing up until they suddenly closed, or had it discontinued previously and now it's something we're going to be starting again unbudgeted?
Yes,
Well,
we told them we would do it when we had discussions in the beginning. We always told them until the depot market commences, which is pretty much lines up with the fiscal year. And they had agreed to that because the depot market is their revenue stream. So they didn't have a revenue stream because they didn't have a market. Once they have a market, their revenue stream is in place. They do have some reserves. So that's why I didn't want to make a lot of assumptions. I wanted to see, what is your ask? And I don't know a lot of details about what their ask is. Maybe President Lynham does, but I haven't heard those details yet.
yeah, not really. The only, like I say, the only ask, if you will, or suggestion that's come before me has been just to change the days of the week that they would be there, which I thought, wow, well, this means that we're going to be open at least 4 hours a day, 7 days a week for the same contribution that we've been making. So it really just, that's kind of a win-win for the village, if you will. But yeah, if we can expand on it, then like I say, let's have that discussion, because it's a beautiful building, you know. So I mean, there are other ideas. Kathleen, I saw an email from you suggesting that you know, there might be some staff usage for it. At one time when we had marketing employees, if you will, there was the team there using 2 of the offices for that. And of course, it was open during those business hours, and that worked out well. The pandemic hit, and that kind of threw everything into a tizzy. And so this is just a way that right now we're trying to work our way out of it. And so let's keep discussing it. But I'll go ahead and get a hold of Bill. And did you say you spoke to Lucy about this, Jennifer? Is she going to get back to you, or what's the status there?
I'm assuming Lucy's been charged with this because she contacted me. I don't think they want Bill asking on behalf of himself.
Probably not.
So Lucy and I talked as recently as the end of last week, and she was going to be working on something. So
great.
Unless you want to do some sort of emergency funding at this point, I'm very confused on whether I tell Bill to come back and we start paying him, or we wait for the request. I think from a process standpoint, we have to wait for their request.
Well, we want.
That's what we would treat anybody else.
When's the next market planned for right now?
It's every Saturday.
So, I mean, I think we want those to continue.
He will be there during the market.
Oh,
So
I see what you mean. So we're really talking about how, if it's going to be open all week or not.
It's the weekday, yes.
Well, yeah, I think we should get some more clarity on that. And like you said, we are opening the bathrooms via the police department anyways, which I think that when people are coming by on their bikes during the day, they don't necessarily want to go in and talk to people about the township. I think they want to go to the bathroom. So I think that's the main purpose for, you know, Monday through Friday of what that's probably for anyways.
Yeah. Okay.
At least now.
Well,
as it sits.
Yeah. All right. Well, if Lucy's going to come back to you, Jennifer, then yeah, we can go from there. I'll shoot Paula a quick email as well. Let her know what we discussed here, and that we'd like to get, you know, more information on it, and, you know, hopefully they can come back to us and let us know exactly what their needs are. But I think you know, we're all agreed that it's a wonderful asset to have. If we can figure out a way to maximize the benefit from it, you know, so much the better. It just seems a shame when we see what it is and it's not open, you know. So if we can figure out a way to maybe expand the use of it, you know, broaden it, if you will, I think it's worthwhile to explore. So. So, okay. All right. The only other item that I have in the report is that I just wanted to reiterate that I'm going to be speaking to independent counsel for a couple of the issues that have come up before the board. So I'll keep everyone posted on that as well. So,
Who is paying for that?
well, the village will be. Yeah. And
Do
I
we
actually have
money budgeted
Thanks.
for that currently, or is this a new budget item?
No, this is a budget item, in fact, that you had brought up. So that was convenient that we.
That
we
is
talked-
not for
Not for
use,
you.
for
the
you,
board.
it's for the board.
Well, I'm part of the board, no?
No, you're not. You're the village president, sir.
Ah, okay. Well, then we'll figure out how that all comes about. Okay,
Greg, maybe if you could weigh in, for some clarification on the special legislative council and anybody hired or retained by the village, what kind of approvals that needs prior to is spending, and also I think it's spending authority is important to weigh on here as well.
I don't have any background on what President Lineham is planning, so I can't address specifics, but the village code and the Illinois Municipal Code lay out the circumstances in which the village can retain legal counsel. The village only needs to pay bills that are presented by appropriately retained legal counsel.
okay,
Maybe
wonderful.
President Lineham, maybe you can contact Attorney Smith. You guys can have a conversation, get more detail. I'm not sure either. I just do know that council has to be retained by, the board, and there's also some spending authority limits in the village code that I think you maybe have some more discussion about that.
Okay,
Probably
wonderful.
needed. Okay.
On that note, wouldn't it be redundant since the village has already received, legal counsel and opinions on the issues I'm guessing President Lineham wishes to address? I mean,
I don't know that to be the case. So that's one of the things I'm going to find out.
Everybody else does.
Okay, good enough. Okay, so further reports. Let's go through well, Jennifer, do you want to start out with your report before we get to the rest of the board? Or would you like to wait till the end?
I'll defer to the board first, and then
Okay.
if I could go before staff, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, great. Then why don't we start? Tricia, how about you? Any report?
I have nothing to report.
Okay, Trustee Britton,
No report.
no report. Trustee Coonsey.
Phil, I did get a report from the Dairy Queen, and they said that they have not been getting any discolored water for the last couple of weeks, which is a nice change of pace for them. So whatever you're doing is so far working.
No, thank you for
oxidization process.
Yeah, we're keeping a close eye on it. So thank you for reporting that. Just
Okay.
Good.
Was that it, Scott?
Yeah, that's it. Sorry, yes.
Okay, Phil, just quickly, would that discoloration been brought about by the flushing of the hydrants and bringing up sediment in the lines?
Some of the discolored water, that's a good question. Some of the discolored water was occurring prior to the hydrant flushing program.
Okay.
And so some of the discolored water could have been caused during the flushing program, but we had some discoloration both before, during, and after. So we believe that at the plant, at the water treatment plant itself, we experienced some discoloration there. And so we've made some adjustments in the treatment process to help mitigate the discolored water. So it's probably a combination of a couple of things. Good question. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, let's move on then. Trustee Andreessen.
Just one thing, and I was kind of hoping Chris would be here this evening. I've been contacted by a number of residents and business owners in town here with the kind of the dry weather we've had lately. There's been some complaints about the dust and the dirt that's been blowing up from the gravel lot in the middle of our downtown. As somebody who lives and works within 100 yards of that lot, I can verify that it is true that I recently got my car washed, and within 6 hours, it looked like I had been in the Le Mans 24-hour challenge. every business owner on River Street has to get their windows cleaned excessively. And what I'm wondering is if that type of issue is something that's dealt with by Section 93 of our village code dealing with nuisances. Because at some point, I mean, to continue to subject the homeowners and the business owners down in the flats to the ongoing dust storm just seems kind of silly.
Okay, great. Well, we'll look into
Well,
that.
I guess my question is, we've already had a gravel lot that was used for parking and we put a fine on that business that was doing that. Why are we not following that same path with this other lot?
I can answer that. The Anvil lot is a legal non-conforming lot. The code was changed, I think, about 2005 on the parking requirements and what's needed, AKA requiring pavement. And this lot goes back at least 20 years. It goes back a lot longer. There was a 20-year agreement in place at one point. So
Gotcha.
that's why. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
We can certainly look into code, property maintenance code as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you never know. Hopefully we'll be able to address it. So, Kathleen. Oh, I'm sorry. Scott, was that it?
That's it. Thank you.
That's it. Great. Kathleen.
Yeah, are we having, is our next meeting the 7th, June 7th?
June 7th. Well, actually, I'm going to.
Are we having another meeting between now and then, or?
Yes, actually, I'm going to be calling for a special meeting next Monday if we can all make it. It should be brief.
Okay.
So.
Well, I just wanted to, two things I wanted to point out. We've got the Memorial Day Parade coming up as well, besides the First Thursday community event on the 27th. We've also got the Memorial Day Parade that we can participate in. Is there a plan for the village to be participating in that at this point?
We
Yes.
will be participating, but yes, thank you for, with our trucks, we usually do. But please, it's much better when the village board has a presence. So thank you for that pitch.
Yeah.
Now I'll take your show of hands at this time.
Yeah.
What day is that again?
I'll be walking it.
Monday.
So, and that's going to begin, just to clarify, at the Emmanuel Lutheran parking lot, and then the church parking lot, and be proceeding up to Graffelman Park as it has in the past. Is that
correct?
Okay. Yeah. Okay, good. That's what I figured.
What is the date again? Sorry.
The
Sunday,
30th.
Sunday the 30th
Thank you.
of May.
And is that, what time is that, Brad, again? Or
I
Kathleen?
believe it's 2 o'clock.
It's at
Kick
2
off.
o'clock. Wonderful.
Gather at 1:15.
You just have to be a few minutes early to
Yeah.
find us.
Great. Well, yeah, let's see if we can get a few of our trustees and staff out there to walk it. It's hopefully the weather will hold. And
I should be able to make it.
oh, wonderful, wonderful. I'll be there too. And then
I had-
trustees. Oh, I'm sorry, Kathleen. Go ahead.
Also, I would like to inform everybody that might not have heard it. Mary Cook K. Bocane, who for a long time was the woman back in the day where we needed a videographer to video our meetings. Her husband recently passed away. The memorial service is going to be June 19th. And I'm
Okay.
hoping as a village, we could thank her and remember her and her husband at that memorial service.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. She's a good lady.
She and her daughter, actually her daughter took over the videoing as well for a while at one point.
Yeah, yeah.
That's all I had.
Yeah, she's my neighbor. In fact, right up the street, about 4 or 5 houses down. So
She was
And
my
then-
model at Sears.
yeah, yeah. Oh, great. And actually, too, a member of the Township GOP as well. So then Trustee Triber, he's last on the list for trustees.
Nothing to report.
Nothing to
Nothing
report.
exciting.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, welcome aboard, and we'll continue
Steve,
on.
welcome, welcome, welcome.
Okay.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great. Okay, well, then let's go to staff. Jennifer, would you like to start off?
I'm very disappointed that Trustee Triber didn't comment about your orientation.
How?
And how exciting it was.
It was a fantastic orientation. Very helpful. Very
Yeah.
helpful.
Wait,
I
The
appreciate it.
department heads did give him our orientation, a new village board member orientation at the request of the board last Friday, I believe it was. And he
Yes.
stayed awake the whole time. And I think all of us did as well. So thanks again for your time, Rich.
No, thank you. It was great.
And then I do have something that I find to be very exciting. IDOT just executed the final EDP IGA for the traffic signal. And we are actually going out to bid. And the bid award should be on the village board agenda for June 21st. So, you know, don't hold your breath on this one, but I think we are actually getting this project going. And I just wanted to report on how excited I am and share that with you.
This is
That's all I
Christina
have.
Drive?
Yes, the signal at
Christina.
Christina Drive and Route 72, yes.
I'm surprised we would send that out to bid. I would have thought they'd tell us it's going to be Mead or whoever would work with the state on that. So, but great, that's wonderful. So
That's all I had.
okay, great. Okay, and oh, Jennifer, I wanted to ask you, considering when you mentioned the orientation, do we have Zukowski, Rogers, Flood, and McCardle would put out a every year, every couple of years, they would put out an IML catalog detailing kind of what you put together. You know, you've been elected, now what? And I recall getting one a number of years ago, boy, 10 or 12 maybe. And I was just wondering, do they provide, so we have again, now and again, them on our warrants list. There it is. Thank you, Kathleen. That's, yeah, you've got it. That actually would probably be a good source for the new trustees and anybody else actually who would want one. You know, kind of, you know, you've decided to run for office, now what, kind of thing. And it's a lot more interesting than Robert's Rules of Order. I don't know if you have ever had to go through that. Instant cure for insomnia, actually. But I was just wondering.
I think we did order some books for Trustee Andreessen.
Yes.
And I can check what we have, or if we have to order, I can certainly do that. IML also has a conference in September. So I would encourage you to do that. I bet it's virtual this year. I haven't had confirmation that it would actually be an in-person conference. So that's also a resource. And finally, Metro West conducts a training, and I sent that information to Trisha and Sarah and Rich also as well. And I actually am one of the co-hosts of that training. So there's a little plug for that. It's free. But I will locate those books you're talking about. There's a couple of them that are probably helpful that the IML has published. That I think that's what you're referring to.
Gotcha. Okay.
Kathleen and I went to that seminar 4 years ago, and it was excellent.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great. It was really
Yeah,
good.
I mean, it's not just for the new trustees, but you know, for any of the existing, it's, you know, a good refresher too. So a lot of good information always through that. So, okay, we'll continue on. I'm just going based on the pictures here at the screen. So we'll start with the chief.
We have no report.
No report. Okay, wonderful. Phil.
No report this evening. Thank you.
Nothing from Public Works. Okay, let's see. Do we have no Greg? We have Brandis. Not Greg. I'm sorry, I meant Chris.
No report.
No report. Okay. Our village engineer, Joe. How you doing?
Doing well. No report this evening.
Nothing. Okay, then I think that's about it.
We do get a report from Attorney Smith too, I believe, as well.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thanks. Nothing to report
Apologize.
this evening.
Good. No report. Okay, great. Yeah, we usually have it listed out here, but I have the agenda printed out, but it doesn't have it out there, so.
Yeah, we took it off a while ago because it made the list longer, but
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
always touch on, Brad
We
and Phil are the only ones left here. if you-
Right.
We need to put the training wheels back on the bike.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
I mean,
A list. We'll give you a cheat sheet, Jeff.
Yeah, exactly.
yes, we will do that.
Brad, did you have anything?
Actually, I did want to bring up one thing back to the events with Thirsty Thursday starting next week. Typically at the events, we have the booth where we charge for wristbands. It's $1 a wristband. It allows us to check the IDs and do that. I just wanted to ask the board whether we wanted to continue charging that $1 this year. We could still have the booth and, check for IDs and issue wristbands, but if we wanted to charge that $1 coming off a COVID year, it's not a lot of money for people, but it is something to entice people, and it can be a pain if they don't have cash on them.
Right.
So I wanted to get your thoughts on that. We don't make a lot of money off of it normally, so it wouldn't be a big loss to us, and maybe to draw more people that they don't have to pay that $1.
Yeah, it's a good point. Does anybody have any thoughts concerning that?
I think if we're going $1 and use that table as more of a, hey, welcome to our event. Thanks for coming by. Here's some information about the upcoming village events. Because to your point, I mean, the headaches with grabbing $1 from each person,
Right.
it's silly.
I'm good with foregoing the $1 charge for the wristband.
Yeah,
Same.
me too.
I agree.
Excellent.
Yeah, so we got a consensus on that. So yeah, let's go ahead.
Excellent.
And do
That's all I had. Thank you.
that. Okay.
Yeah,
All right, so
actually, can you hear me?
We
Jeff?
can. Sure.
Okay.
George.
So I worked the table the last couple of years where the wristbands were sold.
Okay.
I never heard anybody complain about the price, never. And to me, at least, the police have then verified their age, being 21 or older.
Uh-huh.
I think that's a plus.
We don't want to forego that process.
Yeah, I don't want to forego the wristbands. I just want to
Just-
forego the $1.
Just
we
a
have
$1
the
charge.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have the wristbands on order and ready to hand those out and check ID still.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
Thank you.
absolutely. Yeah.
We could
we'll
also
keep-
put a tip jar out maybe for Brad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would
No,
work.
no, I like the idea of, we have to check the IDs. That's absolutely essential. So, but yeah, we can forego the $1. That would be great. Okay, I think, did I overlook anybody else? I don't think so.
Phil, maybe. Phil?
Oh, you did
Phil,
get
no, I did Phil right
No.
after, yes, I did. He had no report.
Although I do have one thing, the flowering hanging baskets are now up. They went up this morning, so I should have mentioned that. So they're up and beautifying the downtown area, so.
Hey, all right.
Good.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, great. Well, we got through staff. Now, I guess the next item then is public comments on non-agenda items. Is there anybody on the call who would like to address the board on a non-agenda item? No, seeing none. Okay, then I will call. Oh, I'm sorry.
I see we've got a lot of observers.
Yeah, yeah, we've got a number of people
Stayed
who are
on.
on. But if nobody has any comments for a non-agenda item to address the board, then I guess I'll call for looks like we're going to be going into executive session. So if I can get a motion to adjourn into executive session, that would be wonderful.
So moved.
Okay.
For the purposes of
Yeah, if you usually.
personnel and litigation.
Yes.
Right, it's a personnel and litigation.
All right, I will second that.
If you, sorry, I added those on there, but I don't know if you want it, we're going to talk about appointment of any officers or anything like that as you have done in the past. So personnel litigation doesn't cover that, so that's why I'm mentioning it to you now.
Can I amend my motion, please? I would like to move that we go to executive session for the purposes of discussing pending litigation, personnel and legal counsel, acquisition of property, sale of property, and/or appointments.
Oh, okay. And Second. Okay, we got that. Okay. Well, thank you all for joining. Everybody has the executive session
Yeah, roll call.
Zoom connection. So we'll resume. in
I think we
about-
have to do a roll call on that, Jeff.
We have to vote.
Right. Okay, so Catherine.
Trustee Mahoney,
Yes.
trustee Andreessen,
Yes.
trustee Coonsey,
Yes.
trustee Britton,
Yes.
trustee Saviano,
Yes.
trustee Triber,
Yes.
and President Lineham.
Yes. Okay, well, we'll see you on the other side in, let's call it 5 minutes.
Thank you.
And then
Wonderful.
Jennifer, you'll
Thank
best
you.
when I can hop on.
Good night.
I'm sorry?